What's up, air gunners? Let's talk foot-pounds of energy. How much foot-pounds of energy do you actually need for pest control? Now, this is a FX Impact 177. We'll get into the foot-pounds of energy that it puts out, but I'm going to move this away for a sec. Boom. You know, traditionally, the foot-pounds of energy has gone up over the years substantially. And it's one of those things I kind of question myself whether it's a marketing tactic to kind of make people feel like they don't have enough power in their air gun and they need to upgrade. And looking at some of the charts and some of the suggested foot-pounds of energy that you need for certain pests, it looks like it's actually gone up as well. And then there's the whole world of long-distance shooting with air guns, the ballistics and the slugs and everything else as we had tried to achieve firearm status of these long distance shots and how much power. But it's kind of one of those things, let's put it in perspective, like how much does a firearm rifle have for foot-pounds of energy? How much does our air guns? And then it will kind of show you how far we have to go, and maybe we don't even want to approach that. So for instance, the Barrett 50 cal, extreme range 2.5 miles, confirmed kill in Afghanistan, about 800 grains slug, bullet, whatever you want to say, is roughly 15,000 foot-pounds of energy, which is an enormous amount. It's ungodly. But if you take a more common round, like a 6.5 Creedmoor, which is very popular nowadays, is roughly around 3,000 foot-pounds of energy. And at 1,000 yards, it's roughly 660 foot-pounds of energy. And that's still that's a huge amount of energy. And we take the common 223 round, which is pushing 40 grain slug at roughly 3,000 feet per second, is 1,100 foot-pounds of energy. And we take the traditional 222 round, which is 40 grains at about 1,100 feet per second, which is roughly 110 to 120 foot-pounds of energy. Yeah, so you have something like the 223, which is 15 times less than a Barrett 50 cal, and you have a 22, which is 10 times less than the 223. How much does my FX 177 Impact have? Roughly about 25 foot-pounds of energy, 27 foot-pounds of energy. So it's like a quarter of this little guy. And I think that kind of puts things in perspective of how we're chasing firearms, but we're still very, very far away, and kind of glad for that anyway, because you just don't have the whole hassle of worry about collateral damage and ricochets and everything else. But the market, as we know, is kind of pushing to the upper end. The market is pushing towards more foot-pounds of energy, and as I've watched the charts go up in pest control, it kind of leads me to believe, like I mentioned, that there might be more at play here. And I don't think it's necessarily the right way of looking at things. So if we look at 27 foot-pounds of energy, the older guns, like 15, 20 years ago, the Springers were shooting 6 and 9 foot-pounds of energy. So we've obviously increased the power, but there were guys that were taking out ground squirrels, sparrows on 6 foot-pounds of energy. And I've personally witnessed 20 to 30 yards with 5 foot-pounds of energy, a single 177 doing complete pass-throughs on sparrows. Completely, and annihilates it, and they're pretty much done. But if you look at the charts, you could easily assume you could use 1 foot-pound of energy per the pound of animal at impact, meaning direct at the animal. If there's 1 foot-pound of energy and it weighs 1 foot-pound, that's enough. Less for sparrows, but if you start going up the chain, for instance, a raccoon, you could say 20 foot-pounds of energy at the point of impact, and that would be enough. And a deer, 200-pound deer, would be 200 foot-pounds of energy, and that should be enough. But the thing that the industry isn't necessarily mentioning, because they just take it for granted, is accuracy. Now, these big rounds have a ton of damaging power. 1,100 foot-pounds of energy just devastates all the tissue, everything around the subject, and that's the force that kills, right? But air guns, for smaller animals like sparrows, yeah, it has that effect because you have such a small animal and, a 20 or 15 grain slug pellet. But when you're talking bigger, anything bigger than that, accuracy. That's the thing that makes it, you look at the accuracy, and I'll put some charts up of your kill zone window. Your target is only like a ½ inch or an inch in diameter, which then pushes accuracy, which everybody thinks that the impact and, maybe the day states are the absolute best choice for this. But it really kind of comes down to, and I think this is what people need to consider more, is how the gun fits you. You notice one thing, impacts the last few years have been winning a lot of the bench rests, but just this current year, they had a FX Crown, a traditional rifle. And I guess the individual that won it was a, powder burner shooter. He was actually from a different environment, but it was just what fits him. This little impact doesn't fit me very well, but a field target rifle does. It's traditional. You can scale it back. And I'm going to put up a video of individuals in the UK only using 11.5 foot-pounds of energy, because that's what they're limited to, but they're taking rabbits 40, 50, 60, 80, 83 yards, and sometimes further with only 11.5 foot-pounds of energy in a 177. But they're very confident in their accuracy. Now you could say, well, that's inhumane. I wouldn't disagree. It's not a shot that I would traditionally take, but I think if you look at it, it's not all about foot-pounds of energy, because the penetration's there. It will go through most of the animals at 50 and 60 yards, but it's kind of the wind drift. But more so, how that rifle fits you for the different shots you're going to take. And this is the reason why I'm so impressed with Field Target, is because they do multiple positions. They do offhand, they'll do standing up. It's almost like real-world hunting conditions. So if you look at the field target tests, the field target, they're walking around and they have to gauge anywhere from like 5 or 8 yards all the way up to 60 yards, or 55 meters, I should say. And yeah, that's the true test. Can they handhold the gun? Can they shoot it from different positions? Can they do it accuracy? And their kill zone is only like so tiny. And they have to put up with the wind conditions like everybody else. But just me, some of the experience I've had with the traditional impacts and the field target guns is in a real hunting situation, if I didn't have to carry it, if I didn't have to worry about carrying it, I would take a field target gun with less power over something that has 30, 40, 50, 60 foot-pounds of energy, because if you hit them right, you always got to hit them right anyway. I mean, 50 foot-pounds of energy, you're given a little bit more leeway, but you still got to put it right where it needs to go. And that's it, guys. I kind of want to know your feelings on this, but put things in perspective. Not more power is not always better. Accuracy is king. I think there was a guy who said the only interesting guns are accurate ones. And I would totally have to agree with that. Till next week, see you guys later.